The mother reported that the kids in front were too often asked questions by their teacher. The day the teacher received this request, she did not make any changes in the seating. The mother called the teacher that afternoon to protest. The teacher was unavailable, but she did return the call the next afternoon. Feeling slighted, the mother immediately transferred her daughter to another school. In yet another case, a distinguished professor recently received a telephone call from his neighbor. The caller was irate. Caller, Dr. You're in this business. I need your advice. How can I go about getting a professor fired? You probably don't know this guy. He's at the state university. Professor, why do you want to have him fired? Caller, my daughter is failing his course. He says she lacks the background to do well in his class. He has long hair. He never wears a suit. He's a jerk. I have already spoken to his chairman. I'm getting the runaround. I want this guy fired. Professor, well, why doesn't your daughter just withdraw from the class? Caller, then she will have to go to summer school. Professor, there are a lot worse things than summer school. Caller, if she goes to summer school, she can't go to Europe with us. We have planned this trip for 2 years. Her mother won't go without her daughter. What can I do? What have all the parents done in these cases? They have contribute to weakening the weak. If your son has a deficiency in his verbal skills, make a commitment to overcome his handicap. In one case, a father recognized that his son had an extremely high aptitude in mathematics, but that his verbal skills were poor. His dad attacked the problem. Each night during dinner, Dad would ask his son to define 3 words taken from the SAT study guide. During hundreds of dinner sessions, Dad tutored his son. He also hired a professional tutor for him. This combination worked. Today his son is a graduate of a top Ivy League school, the one with the highest entrance requirements. The product OFEOC. What happens when weakened children become adults? They type Cadillac initiative. More often than not, they are economic underachievers, but have a high propensity to spend. That's why they need economic subsidies to maintain the standard of living they enjoyed in their parents' home. We will say it again. The more dollars adult children receive, the fewer dollars they accumulate, while those who are given fewer dollars accumulate more. This is a statistically proven relationship. Yet many parents still think that their wealth can automatically transform their children into economically productive adults. They are wrong. Discipline and initiative can't be purchased like automobiles or clothing off a rack. A recent case study will help illustrate our point. A wealthy couple was determined to give their daughter, Ms. BPF, every advantage. So, when Ms. BPF expressed some interest in starting a business, they responded in typical fashion. They created what they thought would be the ideal environment. First, they wanted her to be debt-free. So they put up all the money for their daughter to start her business. Ms. BPF put up nothing of her own. She never even applied for a commercial loan. Second, the parents felt a strong need to provide her with substantial economic outpatient care. They felt this would enhance their daughter's chance of succeeding among the ranks of America's entrepreneurs. Ms. BPF's parents believed their adult daughter would benefit from living at home. This way, Ms. BPF could put all her energy and resources into her business. She would live with her parents rent-free. She would not have to allocate any time to shopping for groceries, cleaning the house, or even making her bed. This ultimate form of subsidy goes beyond economic outpatient care. Call it economic inpatient care. Is a rent-free environment ideal for a young entrepreneur? We don't think so. Nor is the gift of a business. The most successful business owners are the ones who put much of their own resources behind their ventures. Many succeed because they have to succeed. It's their money, their product, their reputation. They have no safety net. They have no one else to rely upon for their success or failure. Third, the parents of Ms. BPF added yet another element to the equation. What if their daughter did not have to worry initially about generating profits from her venture? They believed that reducing this burden would enhance their daughter's probability for success. Ms. BPF became yet another member of the subsidized cluster. Her parents give her approximately $60,000 in cash and equivalents each year. What is the result of having created this ideal environment? Today, Ms. BPF is in her late 30s. She still lives at home. She has no commercial-related debts. Her folks financed her business and continue to do so. Last year, her business earned her nearly $50,000. Her parents continue to give her $60,000 every year. They still feel that Ms. BPF will become truly independent sometime in the future. We are not as optimistic as her parents in this regard. Most successful entrepreneurs are not like Ms. BPF. How many entrepreneurs who are still in the startup phase of their venture would do what Ms. BPF has recently done in 1 year? Plus purchased a $45,000 automobile without shopping or negotiating the price or conditions. Plus paid $5,000 for a watch, $2,000 for a suit, and $600 for a pair of shoes. Plus paid more than $20,000 for clothing in general. Plus paid more than $7,000 for interest on credit card balances and revolving retail credit. Plus paid more than $10,000 for dude fees at area country clubs. The answer is very few. Ms. BPF's business is not really a success. It is heavily subsidized directly and indirectly via other people's money. Actually, Ms. BPF has been shortchanged by her parents. She may never know if she could make it on her own. The ideal conditions they provided for their daughter were an incentive for her to spend heavily on consumer goods. All the while she gave her business stepchild treatment. Who do you think has more fears and worries, Ms. BPF or the TYP? Eichel unsubsidized affluent business owner? Logic might suggest that Ms. BPF should have no worries at all, since she receives intensive economic care from her parents. In fact, she has many more fears than do affluent men and women who receive no subsidies whatsoever. Typical affluent business owners have only 3 major concerns. See Table 3 for in Chapter 3. All of these are related to the federal government. They fear policies and regulations that are unfavorable to BUSI, NES owners, and the affluent population in general. What does Ms. BPF fear? She told us that she had 12 major fears. How is it possible that a person who is almost completely insulated from financial risk has 4 times more fears than the typical affluent business owner? Because these affluent business owners have overcome most of their fears. They have inoculated themselves from many fears by becoming completely self-sufficient. And it was the very struggle to become economically self-sufficient that helped these business owners overcome them. What are some of Ms. BPF's major fears and concerns? Remember, these are fears that are not paramount among the self-sustaining affluent population. Ms. BPF has substantial fear of the following. Plus her parents' estate being heavily taxed. Plus experiencing a significant reduction in her standard of living. Plus her business failing. Plus not being wealthy enough to retire in comfort. Plus being accused by her brothers and sisters of receiving more than her fair share of financial gifts and inheritance from their parents. Who is more confident, more content, more able to deal with adversity? It's not the Ms. BPFs of America. It's those who have been brought up by parents who rewarded independent thought and behavior. It's those who don't concern themselves with other people's money, who are more concerned about succeeding than about how much is in someone else's estate. Also, if one lives below one's means, one doesn't have to be concerned with the possibility of being forced to reduce one's standard of living. The parents of Ms. BPF have failed to obtain their objective. Their goal was to have a daughter who would never have to worry. But the method they used yielded just the opposite result. People often attempt to shelter their children from the economic realities of life. But such shelters often produce adults who are in constant fear of tomorrow. The product's OF0EOC. How valuable is your signature? It depends on how it is used. A signature helped Paul Orfalia start the business that bears his nickname Kinko's. With a $5,000 loan, co-signed by his father in 1969, he rented a small garage. From there he and a few friends sold about $2,000 worth of services daily. Lau Re Flynn, Kinko's adds internet services to its copying business. The New York Times, March 19, 1996, p.c. 5. It is estimated that Kinko's has annual sales in excess of $600 mil. Lion. But what if Mr. Orfalia's parents had socialized their son in an environment similar to Ms. BPF's? Would he be as productive today? It's very unlikely. Mr. Orfalia has what all successful business owners possess: considerable courage. Taking financial risk is evidence of courage. But what risk has Ms. BPF ever taken? Very little. Webster's defines courage as mental or moral strength to resist opposition, danger, or hardship. It implies firmness of mind and will. In the face of danger or extreme difficulty, courage can be developed. But it cannot be nurtured in an environment that eliminates all risks, all difficulty, all dangers. That is precisely why Ms. BPF lacks the courage to leave home, expand her business, and wean herself from heavy doses of economic inpatient care. It takes considerable courage to work in an environment in which one is compensated according to one's performance. Most affluent people have courage. What evidence supports this statement? Most affluent people in America are either business owners or employees who are paid on an incentive basis. Remember, whether their parents were wealthy or not, most of the affluent in America acquired their wealth on their own. They had the courage to undertake entrepreneurial and other business opportunities that were associated with considerable risk. One of the greatest entrepreneurs and extraordinary sales professionals of all time, Ray Kroc, looked for courage in selecting potential McDonald's franchise owners and executives. Kroc actually welcomed cold-calling sales professionals. He told his secretary to send all of them in. Why? Because it's not easy finding people who have the courage to be evaluated strictly on their own performance. He sold his first franchise outside California for $950 to Sanford and Betty Agate, see John Love, McDonald's, Behind the Arches, Toronto, Bantam Books, 19861, pages 78 to 79, 96 to 97. Kroc first encountered Betty Agate while she was making cold calls on people in Chicago's financial district. Kroc's secretary asked, "What the hell is a Jew doing selling Catholic Bibles?" "Making a living," was her reply. Kroc reasoned that anyone courageous enough to do what Betty Agate was doing would be a prime prospect for purchasing one of his franchises. How many cold calls has Ms. BPF made in her life? 0. Most of the people who buy from her are friends or business associates of her parents and relatives. Calls to these people are warm calls. Parents often ask us how to instill courage in their children. We suggest that children be exposed to the sales profession. Encourage your children to run for class office in their elementary or high school. They will have to sell themselves to the student body. Even selling Girl Scout cookies can have a positive impact. Retail sales jobs provide another way for children to be evaluated by very objective third parties. A woman of great courage. Guess where your colleague was at 5:30 a.m. this morning? I was boarding an early bird flight. Although the plane had room for more than 100 passengers, only about 20 people were on board. Soon after I sat down, we were told there was fog over the destination and that there would be another famous short Del 8. Why? As I stood up, the woman, I'll call her Laura, sitting in front of me, also stood up. I mentioned to her that I was displeased about having to get up so early to make this flight. She responded that she had been flying all night and still had one more leg in her fight. I asked Laura why she was traveling at night. She replied that it was a lot more economical to do so. What I found out shortly thereafter was that this woman did not have to fly via a highly discounted ticket. She, in fact, was affluent, but she was also very frugal. What was the purpose of Laura's travel? She was en route to a conference of real estate executives where she was to receive the Real Estate Executive of the Year award. I then asked her how she first became involved in the real estate profession. Laura replied, out of necessity.